The Ofcommunists have now decided that they are going to fine GB News a whopping 100 grand for breaching their guidelines at the People's Forum event with Rishi Sunak. Now, if you ask me, this event was pretty hotly contesting the Prime Minister. I mean, the questions were absolutely scathing of him in the audience, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. So what did Ofcom find wrong with this event that warrants them to give GB News a 100 grand fine? Well, let's take a look at what they said, shall we? So Ofcom claimed that Mr Sunak had a mostly uncontested platform to promote the policies and performance of his government in a period preceding a UK general election, which it recorded as a breach of impartiality rules. I'm sorry, uncontested platform? Did you see the questions that were asked of him? You know, this is at a time when most people, even people who were traditional Tory voters, were absolutely fed up of the Conservatives and angry that they hadn't done anything in office. GB News generally, as a platform, yes, you may have presenters there who in the past were typically Tory voters, but over the past couple of years, pretty much since GB News existed, I'd say most of the presenters there are pretty darn critical of the Tories because they are fed up with the fact that, for example, the Tories have completely failed to solve the both legal and illegal migration problem in this country. They absolutely criticise them for that all the time, yet Ofcom seems to think that GB News is some sort of Tory propaganda platform. I mean, it could not be further from the truth. Then they said, given the seriousness and repeated nature of this breach, okay, so it wasn't just, a little bit biased towards Rishi Sunak, it was seriously biased in his favour. I mean, what? And repeated nature of this breach. Oh, apparently they've breached the rules over and over and over again. So this warrants them 100 grand financial penalty. I mean, it is just genuinely insane. Now, in case you forgot what happened at the GB News People's Forum, or you didn't watch it, let's take a look at how uncontested the platform for Rishi Sunak was, shall we? This was the video that GB News put out when they were initially found in breach of the guidelines. Take a listen to the questions coming.
Since the 2019 election, when the Conservative Party won an 80-seat majority, do you believe that the Conservative Party have delivered anything of real substance and value since then?
Why are you so adamant about Rwanda when public documentation shows it isn't working and that it's not going to work? So can you be open and honest with everybody today and tell us what the next steps are?
Social care is chronically underfunded and government has abdicated responsibility to local government, effectively making it a postcode lottery for many. Do you agree that it needs radical reform? And if so, what?
Why should LGBT people vote Conservative?
The UK is estimated to be short of over 1 million homes. But despite this, your party have scrapped the house building target and you've scrapped Michael Gove's proposed planning reforms that would have liberalised the building of houses.
Given the number of Conservative MPs not standing at the next general election and the number of factions within the party, there appears to be a lack of leadership at the head of the party. What are your plans to bring the factions together, to build a team and to stop voter defections to Reform and other parties?
Why are the people who are in charge, who told us all to do the right thing, have left us all to rot and left me and the thousands and the tens of thousands in this country to rot? Rishi Sunak, look me in the eye. When are you going to start to do the right thing? The vaccine damage payment scheme is not fit for purpose.
Well, there you go. If you ask me, that was not what Ofcom claimed was a mostly uncontested platform for Rishi Sunak to promote himself and his policies. That was pretty contested if you ask me. And Rishi Sunak, I mean, did you see his face there? He was sweating and freaking out with some of the hard-hitting questions that he was getting from those audience members. He didn't know them in advance. He didn't know what was coming his way. And this was a pretty hard time for Rishi Sunak, especially that last question. I think it is fair to say. So what are GB News gonna do about it? Well, the CEO has put out a statement on this, and he says the announcement by Ofcom to impose sanctions upon GB News in relation to the People's Forum is a direct attack on free speech and journalism in the United Kingdom. I could not agree more. Now, remember, if you're not aware already, GB News, they have been granted the ability to still challenge Ofcom, bring a formal challenge against Ofcom in the courts for this, but the courts have decided that Ofcom is allowed to put this fine in place and decide on their sanction now. But GB News will still be able to challenge the decision in the court. So it's not all over yet, and I think that GB News, they will fight this to the death. They're not going to be scared of Ofcom anymore. They will go for them, and I really, really, really do pray that they win that legal challenge, because I think that that is going to be a big wake-up call for the Ofcommunists, that they cannot mess us around and they cannot treat us in this absolutely disgusting way just because we don't agree with their left-wing bubble point of view. And I think that will be very, very interesting. Maybe you'll see Ofcom completely tumble and fall apart if GB News wins that challenge. I bloody hope so, but who knows. Also, he had this to say in his statement. I know it's quite long, but I think this is quite a serious situation. So, we cannot have Ofcom shutting down GB News. They have to fight this, else if they allow Ofcom to get away with this, they will just keep on going for them until they manage to shut them down. So GB News, they have to fight this, and they have to stand up for themselves if they want to survive, and for the sake of free speech in this country and all of the rest of us that want to have a voice. I think it's very important. So he says, we believe these sanctions are unnecessary, unfair and unlawful. The High Court has already granted GB News permission to bring a judicial review, which is what I've just spoken about. The sanction proposed by Ofcom is therefore still subject to that legal challenge. The plan to sanction GB News flies in the face of Ofcom's duty to act fairly, lawfully and proportionately to safeguard free speech, particularly political speech, and on matters of public interest. Brilliantly put. We have believed that from the very start the People's Forum was an important piece of public interest programming, and that appropriate steps were taken to ensure due impartiality and compliance with the broadcasting code. Absolutely, I think it was a great event, and when I saw that I thought, I hope that this is the start of many of these events, because it was far better than any kind of debate I've ever seen in the run-up to a general election. It was really real, really raw. People were able to ask proper questions who are normal voters, not just journalists. It was really, really good stuff. Obviously, Keir Starmer, he was invited by GB News. It's not like they only wanted to invite the Conservative candidate, but Keir Starmer was unwilling to do it. He did not want to. That's not GB News' fault. So just looking at that last quote there, the People's Channel, we will continue to fearlessly champion free speech for our viewers, for our listeners, and for everyone in the United Kingdom. As we have all seen, this is needed more than ever. Yep, absolutely brilliantly put. Couldn't have said it better myself. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. Do you think that GB News will win the challenge, the judicial review, their formal challenge against Ofcom in the courts? I really hope they do. Let's see what happens, ladies and gents. I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more of our videos, and I'll see you in the next one.